In this lesson, we're going to look at two more interfaces that we're going to be examining in more detail in this chapter, and that's the queue interface and the deck interface. A queue is a particular type of sequential container that allows you only to enter items in the back of the structure and remove them from the front. I've brought up the wiki page for queue so you can see a diagram of how a queue works. So you'll notice that the part here labeled in queue represents entering an item. So this item, represented by the blue triangle, enters or in queues, if you will, from the back. And then we dequeue an item or remove it only when it's at the front, when it's the front item in the collection, or in this case in the queue. The queue interface itself is quite small. I have another page for that. And you'll notice there's only a few methods. Element, which retrieves but does not remove the head of the queue. Offer, which will insert an element at the back of the queue. Peek, which lets you look at but does not remove the head of the queue also. Poll, which retrieves and removes the head element of the queue. And then finally remove, which does the same thing, retrieves and removes the head of this queue. So as you can see, it's a very small interface. Another type of queue is called a deck, and a deck stands for a double-ended queue. If we go back to our queue diagram, what that means is that double-ended allows you to enter new elements from the back or the front, and it also allows you to remove elements from the back or the front, which makes it more flexible, but also takes away a little bit from the abstraction of a queue being like a line, like the line at the grocery store or at a bank, for example, where you enter the line at the end and then you leave the line when you're the one being served. The interface for the deck is a little bit larger since we have to allow for both entry and removal from the front and back of the structure. So you see we have several different methods, many of them similar. Add last, offer last, remove first, poll first, get first, peek first. And then we also have other deck methods that are similar to stack methods. We'll be talking about stack methods in a later lesson. Add first, remove first, and peek first. Normally, add first would not be part of a queue, but it is part of a deck. So those are the two other interfaces I wanted to introduce before we start working with specific types of sequential containers. But now we're ready to go ahead and move on to the next lesson where we're going to look at the first of the sequential containers I'm going to cover, and that's the array list.